On the topic of storytelling for a global audience, we are here with Barnabas and Tolu. So, guys, please introduce yourself for us.
Starting with me, my name is Tolu Ajayi. I'm a filmmaker, but I've uh, I've been in the industry working as a creative professional. Started out in advertising about a couple of decades ago, and then I was a producer, and I migrated into film. Started directing. I started off directing with Tinsel around 2008, and been involved in a lot of projects. So I've been working as a director ever since.
My name is Barnabas Emordi, filmmaker, cinematographer for some of the biggest films in Nigeria, or probably the biggest film ever in Nollywood,
Yeah.
The Tribe Called Judah. And I've done a couple of other exciting projects, and yeah, glad to be here.
Fantastic. So, guys, what do you think is the current state of storytelling in Nollywood today?
Mm. You want to go first, or you want?
Yeah, let me go first. The current state in Nollywood at the moment. I remember when I started off in 2015, I knew like the level where we were at as filmmakers in an ever-growing industry. But now looking back to 8, 10 years ago, and now looking at where we are currently at the moment, you've seen that growth, you've seen that accelerated development that comes with time, that
Yeah.
comes with an ever-growing industry. You get the decisions and the films that we used to make 15 years ago, we are making it at a larger scale with more technical know-how.
Yeah.
We are making better films. We're telling better stories. We're telling films that are grossing a really huge number. So I'm quite
Yeah.
excited about where we're at this point, and I'm excited about the growth in the next few years as an industry.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely great. We're in a very good time. I think there's a confluence of technology now meeting some of our best ideation. In African filmmaking, there's a wide range of films. There are films that are a little ideological. There are films that have a bit of, native myth. So there's such a wide range. There's this still space, but I still believe there's a lot of space in between that filmmakers can fill.
So, Barnabas,
Yeah.
you've worked on a few top grossing films,
Yeah.
so the likes of Tribe of Judah, Omo,
Down
Daddy,
Daddy.
yeah, and A Weekend to Forget. What are some of the factors you feel has come into play when it comes to storytelling as well as cinematography?
I think the major factor usually like for cinematography and storytelling, it is for me, I think it is the amount of
Mm.
time that we've literally cooked in like development. You get, so in Nollywood at the moment, we really do not spend like a lot of time trying to like prep properly, and spend a lot of time like in development, trying to develop the stories and then break down scenes for each and every film. You get, and all these
Mm.
things you need time, and then time is money. You get, so which is why like you find out like for stories and for films that you've spent like way more time in prep and a lot of time developing the story before they come with an actual draft. You get to see that the storytelling is way more elevated. You see the camera work is way more intentional. You get to see that the audience is really pulled into the particular film because of the amount of work that have been done over time for those films to be made. You get, so as an industry at the moment, we really do not have the luxury of time, because time
Yeah.
is money and you need like a lot of money to make quite good films. But over time, our storytelling has improved, and we are spending way more time on films that we used to spend a couple of decades ago. You get, so
Mm-hmm.
we'll continue to grow. We'll continue to be better storytellers. We'll continue to tell stories that we transition to a global level. You get, and we'll continue to put our stuff out there. Really good stuff. We're doing really well in festivals abroad. Like we have films that have walked like literally around the world in more than 60 countries. You get,
Wow.
so these are some of the mind blowing stuff that Nollywood is doing as an
Mm.
industry,
Yeah.
and even like we are even affecting like the rest of Africa. So particularly in Nigeria, we have a really good cinema going culture compared to like the rest of West Africa, because like I've literally been to like 20 countries in Africa, and
Mm.
you will notice that Nigeria still has that cinema going culture, even way more than even in South Africa. There has
Mm.
a really booming
Yeah.
cinemas and a better economy in code. But Nigeria still has a lot of cinemas, which is not that not that particular in other countries in West Africa, where you see one or two cinemas, probably in Ghana, and then the rest of West Africa, literally little or no cinema. So we need to consistently find ways where our films can actually still penetrate audiences both in Africa and the rest of the world, and that is how we take Nollywood to the rest of the world.
I have a position on that actually.
Yeah.
I think there's someone always left out of the conversation. And I'm not in any way. The fact that in Nigeria we had the NTA, we had the largest TV network all over Africa, probably the largest in black countries.
Yeah.
And what the NTA did was prime everyone for storytelling that was visual. And we're also probably the most visually, in terms of entertainment, kind of informed. Because we had literally every state had their own TV station.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the crazy things about how we are not talking about how NTA has kind of influenced Nollywood, because if it wasn't for, Nollywood couldn't have even started if some of the stuff that NTA sort of discarded was available.
Yeah.
So camera people are available basically in every state for anyone to go and tell their story. When Nollywood, the new version of it started, after like celluloid couldn't work. So there is that element of it, and that's why we're so entertainment. We need entertainment, and that's how come the cinema culture too, which was kind of like a step up as to watching TV in your house and watching video CDs. So there is you can't ignore what that has done for the industry, as well as the fact that we now have an opportunity to take these stories and also to share them with other people.
Yeah, so Tolu, actually, so your film won 12 nominations at the 2024 AMVCAs, as well as Best Cinematography.
Yeah.
What elements do you think may have contributed to the critical acclaim of the film?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say shout out to the two of my team whose contributions really did. Of course, it's the funny thing, I'm having a brain.
I get that.
We won for cinematography and art direction, and Bisola and Casey, the two strongest visual elements that the film did have, they made huge, significant contributions. So the film, I'm not sure that you've seen the trailer, you've seen the film. The film essentially is a very strong character story, and the elements that were nominated for really enable that. So our film isn't very dialogue driven. There is a lot of show and let's tell, and those two areas obviously help the film to get out there. Another reason why I think these are all my own opinions, because when the film was programmed for the UK, the first thing that Picture House Cinema said to us when they were giving us feedback on the coverage, they said, your film is very relatable. People are able to connect with it because we're sort of universal theme-wise. And one of the things I really enjoyed whilst the travel through the UK was seeing people from black diaspora. There's a black man on screen. His life seems similar to mine. Language, we don't have language issues. He's speaking English.
Yeah.
His problems could be problems I have. So the story is something I can embrace. And I feel that the film was able to traverse the natural boundaries as to what your stories can go to and where it doesn't go to.
So you mentioned the UK, right? So you did have a UK release.
It started in the UK.
Yeah, exactly.
It premiered in the UK.
Exactly. So obviously, if you look at the likes of the Tribe of Judah, we've had an audience in home, so in Nigeria as well as the diaspora. But of course, they didn't do that well in terms of Francophone Africa.
Yeah.
So what do you think, maybe in your experience, or we can do in terms of extending or reaching that global audience and including the likes of that,
So their storytelling style is
Slightly
different.
different,
Yeah,
yeah.
the film culture is different from ours.
Yeah.
Our film culture started with, the traveling theater, which later translated to film. Ours is very entertainment focused. There's song, dance, spectacle.
Yeah.
And by now, we've gotten beyond the point of, Nollywood being a, pejorative or something. No, it's just the style. Their style is a little more, very aesthetic. restrained, and because a lot of the practitioners that kind of created the foundation of that film culture were very, classically trained. So some of our stories don't translate, because their experience of what cinema is different, which you see by going to a very central francophone film festival. I think there's a synthesis of our style, because let me tell you something. There's joy in our films.
Yeah.
There's a lot of joy, an unrestrained joy, and the reason why I say that is that when I started traveling to South Africa to, at that time I was making commercials there. I recall interacting with black South African, and she asked me a question. This was way back in the day, in the early 2000s. She said, "Do you know Sandra Chums?" And if you know Sandra Chums, she's a Nollywood filmmaker from yeah. And I'm like, I just I was saying, well, I mean, since you're in production, you should know. And she marveled at our style. This was someone who was used to watching the more classical film. She liked the fact that she was seeing aspirational Africans. Your men are dressed in a traditional wear. They look so well put together. So it was, may I, if I dare say it was like them seeing Wakanda. As bad as you want to say Nollywood ways and all the reversing for 1 minute and everything you want to say about it. So when I was listening to her description of it, it reframed what our films were. So there's the joy, the spectacle, makes, and that's how come we've been able to recruit so many people in the diaspora to come to that style. But it doesn't necessarily translate as an experience for people who are used to something else. And I'm thinking that at some point in time, when we do understand how we speak to each other, because I believe the future for African filmmaking is when we start trading films across our own borders.
Yeah.
It's we're at the moment, we want to travel all around the world, but I want to be able to make a film and cross-reference different African cultures and come up with something sort of the way the Westerners have been doing it themselves. So yeah.
What do you think about, you mentioned TV networks, NTA, and now NTA was actually used to like penetrate like a large scale audience. So if you go to like other African countries, like they still watch a lot of our films on those TV networks.
Absolutely.
And there's that influence. So do you think that there's a way that we can also use that medium to actually bring our films to their homes?
Yes. So one of the things, I'm sure you've traveled. At the time when I traveled to Kenya, a lot of Kenyans were speaking pidgin.
Exactly.
The reason why was because we were all on the Mnet bandwidth. We had the same kind of, we're watching the same kind of movies. Around Kenya, Zambia, there is a soft power Nigerian culture has, and they're used to it. As a matter of fact, being that Mnet did a lot of, shall I say, experiments. My background comes from Mnet training, so I started directing, trained by South Africans, and some of the stuff we has also been replicated. So our style sort of is in a couple of film industries, and the Nollywood style is sort of still it's in there. Some storytelling, even though they're taking their stories, there's still an element of some of those things. Our influence is still there. And you will see that's one of the things you find out about Nigerian films. And we've tried a lot of experiments. We've invited actors from Kenya. I did MTV Sugar. When I was directing MTV Sugar, we've had people crossover from different subcontinents. We mixed. And I think that's probably the way. We're going to just probably have to do an Avengers Assemble African film and sort of take over the continent.
Wow, I think that's interesting because, when we talk about like the diaspora, we talk about cross collaboration between culture, right? I do feel like there's some changes that need to be made before we can actually get to the point where, I don't know, for example, little things like using French subtitles.
Absolutely.
And our both audiences being able to actually appreciate little things like that. What are some changes you think might be able to help when we're looking at this march of progress of cross collaboration and actually bringing the 160 million plus people living in the Africa diaspora, you know, to actually
Yeah.
come into the culture?
Well, again, we have stories that cross.
Yeah.
Some of it is mythic lore. I want to let me even reference a film that I think, if the language is taken out of it, Jago Jago's
Oh, okay.
it's a Yoruba film.
Okay. Yeah, I know Jago Jago. Yeah.
So Jago Jago has, when I watched it, because I kind of grew up watching a lot of these films,
Yeah.
I could see something in that could travel, but because it's very steeped, language-wise in Yoruba, but I feel that the movement of the film would help it to travel. People could see something that they can take away from it. Now, if you take this kind of ideas and you cross-match it, we find a language that we all kind of agree on. Subtitling obviously will help, or language dub-overs. I feel language dub-overs would greatly help. Because at the end of the day, I feel, this is just my own postulation, this is my own idea, that black people enjoy seeing black people on screen.
Yes.
The first thing we want to do is enjoy a character that has my values. The first thing we probably look at is, does this person agree with my own idea of what a person is?
Yeah.
Then when we now get over the language barrier and we see the environments, and we're like, oh, okay, this is someone going to fetch water from the stream, or she's going to school, or this is a businessman. Then we're beyond culture. Then we now start getting into ideas and themes. So once you create those natural barriers to understanding the story are removed, the film will travel.
How important do you think it is in showing diverse cultures in film? So I'll give you an example. For example, like Postcards. You know, Postcards came out not too long ago on streamers, and everyone's talking about it. And it was able to intertwine Bollywood and Nollywood,
Yeah.
little experiences like that, meaning that, to people, one might suggest that you're bringing in, for example, the Bollywood culture, you're bringing in people from the Southeast Asia who may resonate with some of the cultures, and then, of course, Nigeria and other parts of Africa. Do you think it's important, or do you think we should keep having those sort of diverse cultures shown in our movies? Is that where, is that what might lead to that global audience or expansion of our market size?
I think it is really important. So even before Postcards now, I make an example of Namaste Wahala.
Same producer,
So Nigerian and
Yeah.
Indians, we share quite a lot of similarities. Like, the way we even do our weddings, we are loud, we are colorful. You get, like, we enjoy
Dance,
that pop, that plum. You get, we want to see that visual spectacle on screen. You get, so and you see the way they were able to merge Nigeria and the India culture, and then also global themes: marriage, love, family. You get that struggle, acceptance from families. You get, these are stuff Nigerians can relate to, and then Indians too can also relate. And then merging and fusing that beautiful film together, and then trying to, like, package and market and sell on a global platform like Netflix. You get, where quite a lot of people from Africa and then the entire world, and having a global release too as well. You get, on that particular day, open to so many countries, and it did quite well. You get, so these are some of the steps that we can take as filmmakers in Nigeria, and then also as filmmakers in Africa. We should find ways to actually fuse the peculiarities of our culture, and then also the similarities. You get, I feel when we fuse those elements together, then you are on your way to actually making a great film, which audiences will be able to relate to, and to actually sell on a global scale. But it's slow, but it is a gradual process that we eventually blow.
Akwekwa is horror based on urban legend. And we've had them. I think, that's why, so you say, okay, art film, there's stuff in between, in genre-wise. One of the things I always like to say is, like, culturally, a lot of our culture is horror film.
Yeah.
Like, all our proverbs are like,
true.
don't whistle at night.
Yeah.
Something is going to happen. Like, so there's so much to
if you
to-
see a cat, you think it's a
you say
witch.
don't trees. There's so much to tap to build stories around that I don't feel horror should be bigger than it is. Currently, yeah.
It's actually globally is a very big
It's a
industry.
huge industry.
Yeah.
And they don't have stories anymore over there. They have vampires, zombies.
It's true. Oh my gosh, literally every single now and then I see an ad to watch a Korean vampire movie or a wolf movie, you know, and I think there's a gap. There's a gap
bush,
for us. There's a
bush
gap
baby
for us.
story. Yeah, catch a bush baby, 7 years of good luck. You know, do you understand? There's still
There's a few tales that we can still
look at Mami Water, for
package.
instance.
It's true.
Look at Mami Water is a story that's been around, and for them, it's Little Mermaid is a nice Disney story. For us, it has way more, significance and import. And it's suddenly, it's like a new flavor. It's an African appetite. Like they like to say in the studio, said, okay, we always ask, what's your African appetite? So they're looking to mine. Well, I don't want to use the word mine. It sounds exploitative. But we are exporting something valuable.
Yeah.
And it's a great story that hopefully can be built upon.
It's actually,
I'm going to go
very interesting,
nerd on you guys. The zombie is actually a West African idea.
Whoa.
Yeah. Okay, so let me go to the story of. So I know this since I was a child because the word zombie.
And you just kept it to yourself.
No, I don't get to talk about it now. I think this is it. So the word zombie is from about the dead rising. We've always had it, Ayakudaya in Yoruba. Like somebody dies, then someone sees him in another state.
Like when they see people, like more people just coming out.
Buried him this weekend. 3 years later, or from some months later, he's in Abuja doing something else. The exact same person. So the original zombie idea.
I see those stuff on the news.
When they took the slaves, they took the slaves to Haiti. So it was in Haiti, with a mixture of the language. They are known as zombies, as in X. It's combi. XO. You can Google this.
Wow.
So people used to see people resurrected. The idea was now adapted by a filmmaker called George Romero, who's the father of the zombie, and he brought it back. He now added the element of them rotting. He added the allegory, the Christian allegory of the dead will arise from graves, which is in Revelations. He layered all those things on top of it, and he now made it a European idea of things that will eat your flesh, eat your blood, and it's now become this huge enterprise. But the original idea of seeing the dead, again, it's West Africa.
West Africa, wow.
That's new information.
That is really new information. Guys, cover your ears, let's monopolize it.
Yeah. I mean, so that means there's still stuff. You guys should go and look in the cupboards of your ancestors.
The webs of things.
And
No,
find
for
something.
real.
Yeah.
I'm sure. And that's what I mean. I feel like there's so many stories that are untold, when it comes to African culture. And obviously, similar to our music industry, of course, how things have been exported, there's so much more that can be done, I was going to touch upon something you said. You were talking about development, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you're a novel. You know a lot of stuff, right? But some of us don't know what you mean, the extent in which you mean development, right? There's pre-production, of course. Like, break it down for us. When you say development, what level of development? What are the elements of development are we talking about? We're talking about the script development. We're talking about locations. We're talking about everything before we're ready to shoot. What are we talking about?
So literally, I wanted to even make a point during the last question that I answered. So in development, literally, so where we are as an industry, we're still trying to scrape like the what's the word, like we haven't like dug like really deep in development. So we literally do not have sound stages in Nigeria like they have like in Nollywood or something. We don't do like pre-lighting like for a few days before we actually like shoot particular scenes. We still don't do like a lot of VFX work even in post or even on SFX on set. So there's quite a lot of like intentional work that we still need to get to like in development. Like we have like regular location issues in Nigeria. Like we're still dealing with sound problems like daily because we're filming like on the streets of Lagos and our apartments are not padded or something.
That's why we need to shoot in Abuja, guys.
So it comes with its own.
Yeah. So when we dig deep into development, I say most of these things we need. It needs to be we need that amount of finance to pull this properly as an industry, we need like investments. You get like regular investments. So which is why when people say you don't need money to tell a great story. I get it, but you still need money to tell the kind of story that you're hoping like will travel and still execute like properly. You get so yeah. So
Yeah.
Let,
So
let, let, let me let me
yeah.
just quickly.
yeah, yeah.
So I want to talk about development, for instance. So before I started directing, I worked in advertising and I got to work, at that time globally.
Nice.
If we are doing it's a commercial I had to do, which was a football match. We shot it in Nairobi, and we had a what you call part of development is then you have the script. You go and you talk about the script. In advertising, there's what is known as a scene by scene development, so a breakdown. So every scene, we analyze it for, is it going to hold the cup this way? Is it going to hold the cup this way? And you arrive at, everything is so intentional that you know how much time you're going to spend shooting stuff.
Which one, yeah.
And advertising is wasteful in the sense that we can pour beer 25 times for the perfect pour, right? Because you sort of want, the correct. There's actually, back in the day when I used to shoot Guinness commercials, there'll be a tape measure for the what you call the crown of the foam. So the foam has to be specific size. That's probably not being done like it used to be done.
Yeah.
So there's that element. So script, for instance, should be over the bridge. For instance, we spent 2 years going back and forth on the script.
Yeah.
Right. So there's development. Now, if you're doing something like an action film, you should do what's known as previs. That would mean the actors go, they'll actually train. Or the stunt people will train. Then there'll be a visual of what the accident is going to look like, either drawn on a storyboard or done as a video, as 3D graphics, before you actually blow anything up. Those are the elements that make, that give the film very good quality. So Barney would be able to, okay, no, I'm going to need 4 cameras to do this.
Yeah, to film this.
Because once we blew this thing up, we can't put it back and we don't have 4 cars. So I'm going to put
and the right angles.
Yeah, all the angles so I can capture this explosion 4 times.
Yeah.
Right. So that amount of time, these are the kind of things that help. There's a film that's just been made now called The Monkey King, which is doing phenomenally well.
Yeah.
It's this chap that was in, see my brain freeze again. He was in, he's been an Indian, basically. He's a British guy. He has finally directed his first film. There's a lot of action sequences in the movie. And the amount of work that was done. Now, The Monkey King is actually an Indian story. It's a martial, so they have the martial arts that he was highlighting. And nobody has actually known that Indians have their own karate. And that's essentially what the film is sort of highlighting.
That's interesting. Yeah, I actually did
read
it when I was younger. Yeah, like, that's so interesting. I was going to say, so like, you were talking about FX and effects, right? And right now, again, we're in the digital age. We've gone from, I don't know if someone, if they shoot someone in the movie and you see ketchup, and you see ketchup on their body, that's like what we used to watch, like.
Yeah.
And obviously now you can see things have changed.
Expensive.
It's really
I can use Heinz. I use Heinz all the time.
But like, that's what I mean. Like when we're talking about the quality of like cinematography, little things that make a difference. Obviously now if we're on Netflix, we're not trying to see ketchup coming out of someone's body. Like we're trying to see something different. So what do you think has changed? Like, or what do you think people are doing to change the quality of that? Because now technology plays a very key role in terms of defining that. And not everybody has the likes or access to afford the quality that will, the Hollywood standard quality that will make sure that we're not seeing ketchup on our TV. Yeah.
I think like the most important part about this development has been like the personal development of most of the artists, or in short, all the most amazing artists that we have in Nollywood at the moment. So we have taken personal development as a goal that to do stuff that is better. We need to get better at our craft. So you get to see special effect makeup artists going to courses in London and in Nollywood so that they can learn the right way to do this stuff, so that you don't see ketchup coming You get to see actual bullet wounds and you get so, and
Yeah.
it's also a collaborative process which they've also learned over time, which we have learned over time in our personal development journey. So all the SFX and probably the cinematographer, we can talk about, oh, okay, where do you think would be the right position to put the camera that
Yeah.
would show fully show where the effect will be massive on screen. You get so active personal development by creatives generally in Nollywood has also driven like the quality of the work. The technical know-how too has also been massive, like you get so. And over time we've also had that technical and cultural exchange with other creatives from the rest of Africa and like the rest of the world. So you get to see cinematographers from Hollywood, Nigeria, at a session, learning or something, exchanging ideas, exchanging stuff that would drive that development that we've also craved, and it has gone across board. You get so, which is why you see intentional films. They are made by intentional creatives and intentional artists. You get
Yeah.
because they've driven that amount of knowledge that they have, and they are putting it back in the industry, and the industry can only get better with this right development. You get, and it is going to. It's going to affect like literally a lot of other departments, which is why you can see every department now have been doing quite well. You get so they've upgraded their skill set. You get they've upgraded their technical know-how, and they can now contribute to projects. You get both in Nigeria, both in the rest of the world. You see some films that they've made in Africa. They're calling creatives from Nigeria. Oh, well, we need a Nigerian director because we love this work on this particular film.
Yeah.
Oh, we need a Nigerian cinematographer, and before you know they happen before you get, but now
Yeah.
like it's happening and it's exciting for the
Times, yeah.
industry, and we can always do better, and we'll get better.
I think Nollywood has been the most responsive because I was around in a time when the special effects were mocked. The cinematography. I haven't seen an industry hyper accelerate itself.
Yeah.
Because the leap to now from a while back to now has been tremendous. Even like people, we talk about this thing like, oh, when are we going to do this? I'm like, you guys should calm down.
Calm down a little
One,
bit.
people are shooting with Ari cameras. I remember the time when they weren't even focus pullers.
Yeah.
Like, because when I was producing, I used to try to bring crews. And to reduce costs, we would try and look for Nigerian
base crews,
so that we could just bring in 3 people as opposed to bringing in 10.
Yeah.
And it was difficult. And one of the things, I don't think Nollywood stops sometimes to actually even look back, and I'm pretty sure that with the what you're publishing, it probably would be. So there is a phenomenon. I've had an opportunity to actually, I watch people's showreels. I've seen super growth.
Yeah.
So I think we do need to get elements of the story together. But that's the thing about this industry. I think it's so hyper competitive. I think we have for grassroots industry like this that grew out of nothing, it's very competitive. And you have people daily innovating. You go on Instagram Reels, you're like, oh, they're doing this now? Right? So I think, and also because I'm also in creative education, where there are so many more people being pushed into the industry, and they're beginning to compete even from that level, from schools.
Yeah.
So I do think even our education is something exportable. We've actually exported it already.
Yeah.
So there's
a lot of our history being taught in schools.
Lots, that's happening.
What are your thoughts in terms of the future of Nollywood when it comes to like producing global stories? Obviously, you've mentioned already in, like how some of our, like for example, the genre of horror could be exported, given that there's so many overlooked and untold stories, right? What else can we look at, in terms of really positioning ourselves, and in terms of looking at, the likes of Bollywood, the likes of Hollywood? There was actually a statistic a data that was released, I think last week or like 2 weeks ago, that was talking about the fact that I think it was about 40 something million is missed from Hollywood every year from not including black producers, black talent, right? So for me, I always thought, what would be the percentage of revenue that we missed if, we didn't have more collaboration in Nollywood? like there's a potential that our market size would probably increase significantly if we did have more cross collaborations. And obviously you mentioned the likes of Brazil and how like, there's a lot of black people there speaking Yoruba.
Yeah.
Like,
So
what are your thoughts
what
on
are your
that?
thoughts? I think the one part we need to really get it right, and I'm glad I'm actually here, is I'm not saying they're not getting it right. We need to hyper accelerate reach is in the area of distribution, because the stories are being told,
Yeah.
but the funnels to what the stories are having to queue, right? I'm fortunate to have been selected. We've been in. So I'm selected Picture House Cinema, but you need one programmer. You need someone to say, you should watch this. This should be on this. So the films, it's not like the films aren't being made. Some of them are, but they're not being, seen. They're not getting seen as much. It's going to take, okay, you're going to be lucky for someone to see the tape and go, okay, I think this fits our menu. Then it goes in. So I do feel like the more like we're doing now, we're talking about it, and there are more spaces where these films are being seen. Obviously, work is still going to be done on crafting, but that's already happening. I think the evolution is sort of natural. But then, especially at the story level, as we start to understand, I feel perhaps that if people sort of understand more how to make the stories, I'm going to go into an analogy. So this is the thing. This is what we're doing. Just think of what we do as catering, like jollof rice, formerly known as wolof rice. But I just say, but that's also jokes. Like now, it's now being talked about on in the US. Or have you had jollof? Do you understand? It emerged from something that was a Sunday lunch staple to something, an experience you have to have in the
Jollof rice festivals, there's food festival,
exactly.
food festivals going. In fact, there's one that's going on tour all across the US. Like,
so that's a food export. However, you have to cater to the palate of the people. The jollof rice some of us eat cannot be consumed over there. You understand? There is even there's some distinctions, and you're making a film exportable. There are two key things. How do you make it so that people can appreciate it? So the tongue sounds scalded. Two, where would they experience it? So when you have a mixture of chefs that have the heritage, but they have some training, maybe Michelin training a little bit, they can now serve it. They have an idea of how certain palates will be adjusted to it. So if filmmakers actively who have the heritage here learn a little bit about what people like, we like a lot of rice. They might just need some with a lot of colorful. So it's when you learn about that, then the next thing you need are the restaurants that make it easy for them to come in. So that's why I talk about distribution as well as the crafting. So what kind of restaurants I come into? Some people can go to Booker style in London. Some people need to have it. They need to have it in proper restaurants with waiters with white napkins on their hands, and that elevates the experience. So it's really about our films being experiences, but also being made for those audiences in the back rooms. And that's where, some of that sort of the changes I see in getting it out there.
So in terms of our positioning, right, it is apparently, of course, Nollywood is positioned as the second biggest industry in the world, right? But I feel like it's borderline. People are like, okay, Bollywood, Nollywood, in terms of competition. What lessons do you think we can actually, like, what are the main lessons, especially given your experiences, your real life experiences, can we learn from like Hollywood, Bollywood? And also, do you think is true in terms of our positioning? Because, for example, an opinion I've heard is the fact that, we have that second title, but a lot of our films are low budget, a lot of our films are just not distributed, like you mentioned, distribution. We're distributed on normal, like not normal per se, but like we're just distributed on like digital platforms, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
Me or him?
I
Open
think I'm
air.
trying to understand where exactly like
Yeah.
your question.
In terms of our comparison
That's
between Bollywood and
Bollywood.
Hollywood.
So we are is it the second or the third biggest industry based on the volume of the film
Yeah,
that we produce.
exactly.
So not even the quality of of
Exactly.
the film. So making so that data. So when you interrogate that data, you see that okay, they are combining like the films that we make for YouTube,
Mm.
the films that we make for African Magic, and the films that we make maybe that go to cinemas or to networks. You get like Netflix and something. So
Mm.
we also need to interrogate distribution. You get so, which is why when Mr. Tolu mentioned about distribution, I think maybe he considered maybe the infrastructure too that it takes intentional infrastructure. You get so yeah, earlier I mentioned that like in West Africa, like we have. Nigeria is like the largest cinema chain you get
Yeah.
in West Africa, but then when you now go to other countries, yeah, like one cinema, maybe just one in a
Okay,
setting.
in other countries in Africa. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
In other countries in Africa, so we need to put that infrastructure in place. It might not even be the conventional this cinemas you get. It can be I think I remember when like they used to do this theater shows. So there are people like traveling across various states.
Yeah.
You get showcasing their art, showcasing this particular. So it can be like ideas like that. Can be smaller cinemas that can service like a village in
See,
Osun State.
football. See, the
I mean,
same way
they do
football
have
viewing
this.
Yeah, you
See,
get
we watch
it can,
football.
yeah.
People watch Premiership
Yeah,
in
a
small
lot.
places. They buy
Yeah,
beer.
It's true.
yeah.
It's
Once you can
true.
get film to that
To do
level,
that.
Yeah, so
you
Yeah.
get film to that level, you find a way to disseminate at
To
grassroots
make it more
level.
of
Yeah.
a
Yeah, make
thing.
stories also for them as well,
Yeah.
and find ways.
to actually
Yeah, you'll
for your
get there.
stories to penetrate. So we need to interrogate infrastructure in Africa particularly you get, and then also consider that we don't have that that amount of like purchasing power like other
Yeah.
countries in the West too. So before we pay for a cinema ticket, we need to consider the food that that we eat when we get back home. We get so that we can make films that will be able to penetrate at lower levels. You get, and not think about the conventional cinema. You get, so once we can get to that level, then yeah,
So
we're on the right path.
we talked about distribution a lot, right? And obviously distribution is a massive thing, you know, given the various type of methods we have or do we use the most, right? What would you say? So, for people who are trying to actually actively, say, scout African content, right? What would be some tips you would give to them? You know, because obviously there's this thing of, I don't know, people say, oh, people trying to save Africa, and like, you know, for example, the article I read from the Black Book, I think the producer mentioned that his film was fully financed from Nigeria,
Yeah.
which is one of the first in history of that being done. Obviously, even the nature of film financing, you know, the wedding party was bootstrapped, the first
Yeah.
one, before they got external investors, and the way they came together for the second one. Um, where do you think we're at? You know, given the likes of the
That's it.
Black Book, given the likes of the Black Book raising over $1 million, and like that was literally from Nigeria, and he's just said we need distribution. When I go to Hollywood producers and the studios, where I'm asking them for distribution, not the fact that I'm telling you to come and save me.
Okay.
Like, what is your thoughts on that? How do we actually navigate those conversations with the people that are intentionally trying to actually partner and, you know, collaborate with actually our culture, and not trying to, you know, come and
Okay.
just take.
So the nature of Nollywood itself is self-starting.
Yeah.
That's why when we talk about this volume conversation, I think perhaps what we're like with Bollywood is that they're self-starters as well. They have a longer history in film though.
Of course.
But you know, colonialism brought film to everyone.
Yeah.
Nollywood started, you know, based on a need for people who are used to entertainment to still have entertainment.
Yeah.
And to tell themselves stories. I feel, these are my thoughts, what Black Book was fabulously able to do was to tap into another rising sector. So there was actually a cross-networking in the sense that the writer, director, you know, also was in a rising, the tech market
worked in
was
tech.
rising.
Yeah.
And I think that's also being able to see the next thing, to see where you can connect
Yeah.
For funding. Because at the end of the day, most filmmakers are either selling homes or selling things, or they're
Yeah.
self-funding, and they're trying their luck on
Yeah.
the market because they just want to tell stories and do it that
Yeah.
way. He obviously had much more
Experience.
grandiose
Yeah.
ideas on the platforms that he felt he should be on.
Yeah.
Aditi, I'm not trying to
Yeah.
avoid saying his name.
Yeah.
Aditi. So that's how I see it. I think there is the element of you knowing where you're going to get your money from. One of the things he said about that viewing center thing is, if we do the economics of it, and I'm going to go to another crazy analogy, and I mean it in no way, no shade.
Yeah.
Okay, a lot of churches are built of people making offerings.
Yeah.
Multi-million churches, all right?
10%.
Yeah, that's the tithe.
Tithe.
I'm not talking about
Okay.
tithe, but I'm not even trying to throw shade at it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Please don't get this thing wrong.
Of course.
Africans have this ability to get behind. Well, it's Africans. I was just saying Nigerians. Nigerians have the ability to get behind ideas they really believe in, and they're able to donate something. If you're able to bring what you are doing down, I mean, we have what Editi did
Yeah.
with several investors that had a lot of finance.
Yeah.
Then we also have the filmmakers who might be looking at what we're doing right now and be like, okay, how about you get, can you get 10,000 per viewing center? You know, can you make your film successful and work it backwards and say, okay, I'm going to open in multiple universities. Are there ways where you can source all these things? And that would solve the problem of you having to go to someone that's going to claim the rights to your movie and show it to the world,
Yeah.
for that. So perhaps we might need to go back to the Herbert Ogunde days.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's the one that started the traveling theater. Before him, I'm going to go into more history, but before him, one of the things he innovated, and this is why you had to go back to come forward. Before then, people didn't come, they didn't do theater in the marketplace. So all you had were masquerades to entertain people. They'll come in, flock people. I had that. But what he did was he would bring his actors, they'll sing, to advertise the thing. They would do the whole performance in the square. And then they would ask people to come watch it for a token. So that is still pretty much the same idea. Funke Akindele sort of, she's, it's what I mean. I'm not saying that she brought that there. It's I think it's natural. I think it's in the DNA of the entertainers here, that to get the crowd to come see what you're trying to do, and by them seeing a small display in the marketplace, they will come and support. So appealing to our size as a people has some merit if we can find a way to do it that's not so stressful.
Yeah.
The thing is, most of us are creative. So how many of us can do both? Which is why we have to give a lot of, kudos to that ability to be a showman, an ideator, then also an executor. So, but at the moment, we're just creators.
Honestly, I think business acumen definitely plays a key role in terms of the success of the film.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, guys. This has been the Storytelling to a Global Audience panel. We have been with Barnabas and Tolu. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.